Hello and welcome to the second show looking back over the year and some of the guests we've had in the studio. Coming up, we hear from Christian Nicholson, the Hull man who was detained in Iraq.
Not like Basra and Baghdad, and it gets dark about 5:30.
And we'll see more of the best of the bloopers. In this episode, we take a look back between the months of July and November, and we start with Stuart Swinburne, chairman of Immingham in Bloom, on the day of their judging, and we catch up with Shoreline on the day they went on the Humber lifeboat.
Well, a competition such as this requires a lot of planning, a lot of hard work, a lot of teamwork, and joining me is chairman of Immingham in Bloom, Stuart Swinburne. Stuart, you look worn out.
I'm shattered. I'm shattered, Emma, actually, and we've had a fantastic day as you've been round with us to all the different projects that we've created round here. The judges are very impressed, and that's why we're actually running a good 15 to 20 minutes late. I hope they're not going to penalise us. They can penalise you for being out of your time schedule, and I just hope they're not going to. But it's their fault because they've been so impressed with things that's happening around here, and they wanted that extra time.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, we're here by the trench. I mean, this has got to be the fantastic thing in this year, isn't it?
Well, when we did the initial route, and it wasn't to finish here actually, it was to finish back at the county,
Right.
up at the Civic Centre.
Yeah.
But now, because of all the work that's going on around the county, we decided to make this the focal point and finish here. And the judges have just thanked me actually for saying, because they'd seen about this in the portfolio,
Right.
and they wanted to see more of it. And they're so impressed with it, and it's been a fantastic way to finalise the tour.
Brilliant. Well, fingers crossed, because after this, you've obviously got the Britain in Bloom.
Well, we've been invited because of the success in previous years, winning the category last year and the Gold Award.
Yeah.
That we was invited to represent the whole of East Midlands in Britain in Bloom, and that's on the 8th of August. And the comments that we're getting today, it's more or less a dummy run today, really,
Right.
because these judges, even though they work with the judges that do judges on the 8th of August, they've given us comments now to actually what we should do to improve things.
Okay.
There's not a lot that they're saying that we need to improve on, to be fair, but there's just little bits that might want tweaking to give us them extra bit of points for the Britain in Bloom.
And I say it's been worth it because I say the team stood there behind us now. I mean, they do work hard, don't they?
We've got such a great following in Immingham. The community are getting involved more. We've got a great committee, in Bloom committee, and it's the same thing. We couldn't work without the town council, and the town council couldn't work without us. It's a joint enterprise between the council and Immingham in Bloom.
Joining me down here are Anne Maggs, MBE, Tony Bramley, Chief Executive of Shoreline, and Jack Barlow from Cleethorpes RNLI. And if I can start with you, the fundraising that the people have been doing, what have you actually done?
Oh, we've done a range of things. We started off with a walk along the shoreline, linking the shoreline with the lifeboat. We did dress down days, make a cake day. We had a sail day. We've had a millionaires night and just various other raffles and name cards, things like that, just throughout the organisation.
Okay, and Tony, it sounds like your employees are up for having fun and raising money then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the 10th year fundraising for local charities. We're delighted to be able to help the RNLI here. I mean, nearly £70,000 over 10 years, nearly £9,000 this year. It's a great testament to the staff and also to our partners who've been very, very supportive in helping us raise the cash.
And do you have to think of fun ways every year, something new of how you can raise money?
Well, we have an events committee and we sort of do thought sessions. We all put our thoughts in and we come up with different ideas. We do try and change events every year, but we've got things like quizzes that are always popular, but generally we do try and think together. There's a group of 8 or 9 of us who come up with different ideas all the time.
Okay. And Tony, you've obviously been champion for what you've done in the community in raising this money. Why do you think it's so important organisations should do this?
Well, I mean, we're a charity ourselves. We're locally based. Most of the people who employ are local, and they benefit from the sort of services we're seeing today, whether they're emergency services like RNLI or the other services, health and care services that we've helped in the past. So it's a thing we think that staff feel strongly they should give something back, and we're, as an employer, we're very happy to assist them to do that because we think it's an important part of our place in the North East Links community.
You're watching the best of Estuary TV News. Coming up, we hear from Christian Nicholson, the Hull man who was detained in Iraq.
My airbag didn't go off. I was knocked unconscious, damaged my eye and my hand.
You're watching the best of Estuary TV News studio interviews. In October, Nina Stobart and Giles Lyon Worrell came in to talk about not home alone at Christmas.
You've decided to put on Christmas Day dinner.
I have indeed. Hopefully, well, not hopefully, we will be this year putting on Christmas lunch for 80 senior citizens in our area who otherwise would be sat at home alone on Christmas Day, as you say, one of the loneliest times of the year.
What inspired you then to put on Christmas dinner for the elderly?
It probably, as many people have done, over the years we've said, you know, there's something more we could maybe be doing at Christmas. And then last year I was in hospital having an operation, and my husband on the way to visit me had a lady walk in front of his car, not by accident, on purpose. And she said she had nothing to live for, and why did he stop? And it turns out she was on her own. And it's horrific to think that somebody could be in that frame of mind and their neighbours not realise and no family to help or support them. So it started from there, and from January this year we've been searching relentlessly for a venue slightly bigger than my dining table to put on Christmas lunch.
And obviously, Giles, I know you're one of the many people that responded to Nina's call on social media, haven't you, for help?
Absolutely.
Why did you think it was a good idea to be involved?
Because I'm passionate about Christmas, and I just think that there's going to be elderly out there that are on their own, and I just wanted to support Nina doing something special so that they're not sat looking at four walls, and we can sing traditional Christmas carols and just have a really knees up with them and make their Christmas really, really special.
Now, it sounds a fabulous idea, but there's a lot of hard work currently going on, isn't there? With regards to a venue, have you actually found somewhere?
We have found a venue. Shiraz, who owns Miller's Restaurant at Waltham Windmill, has donated us his restaurant for the day and is also coming in to help us. So we have a fabulous restaurant that seats 80 people, which is why we can now look after 80 people on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And other than that, we just needed everything else. Food, chefs, presents, Father Christmas, the lot.
In October, we were joined by Christian Nicholson, who had been detained in Iraq for 9 months, and this was followed in November by Nikki Moody, the mother of Callum, who came to talk about life after her son committed suicide after being bullied on the internet.
In Britain, we take a swift and just legal system for granted. But in Iraq, one man from Hull had to wait 9 months for justice after being involved in a fatal car crash. During that time, dangerous Islamic militants swept across the region, but Christian Nicholson could not leave until the local authorities returned his passport. But he's back now and he's here with me today. Christian, thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about how this ordeal started.
I was leaving work one evening about 6 o'clock.
And where were you working?
In Erbil, in Kurdistan. It's safe to drive around and walk around, not like Basra and Baghdad. And it gets dark about 5:30 all year round around there. I was driving, went and got something to eat. I was about 5 minutes away from my villa. Came around a corner. A car behind me was trying to nudge past me on a 2-lane road. It was pitch black, no street lighting. He was flashing and bibbing from behind. I thought he was going to hit me, and then he clipped me, and I went off to the right. And as I looked ahead, there was a cement mixer truck parked illegally in the right-hand lane next to the curb, and I went straight into it. My airbag didn't go off. I was knocked unconscious, damaged my eye and my hand. There were no lights on the cement truck, there was no cones, there were nothing to suggest there were people working in the street. It was pitch black.
And were you knocked unconscious?
Yeah, yeah.
What's the next thing that you remember?
It was being in the back of a police car with handcuffs on. A guard sat each side of me, armed guard. They took me off to a police station.
And after being unconscious, this must have been a pretty confusing time for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, my head was pounding because I just, at about 40 kilometres an hour, 50 kilometres an hour, hit a truck. Luckily, I was in an armoured vehicle, a Toyota Land Cruiser, or else I probably wouldn't be sat here now.
And so what happened at that point? You were taken to the police station.
And I was just interrogated about why I didn't... Because when I got to the police station, they told me there was somebody under the truck who was fatally injured.
Which must have been hard in itself.
Yeah, which upset me as well at first, because I thought, what's happened? Because I didn't even see him. I didn't even... my last recollection is of just seeing the truck at the last minute and thinking, there's no way I can avoid hitting this truck. And
at this point, as you were being interrogated, you were suffering from concussion, weren't you?
Yeah, bad concussion as well. My eye had swollen up, and my hand was obviously broken and a few fingers. And I kept asking for medical treatment, and they were refusing me.
How long did it take until they did grant you medical treatment?
My third day in the prison.
Wow.
Yeah, and they just questioned me for about 6 hours, breath tested me, drug tested me, everything was clear. And they were just going over the same questions over and over again.
And were you given a solicitor, a barrister?
Yeah, a solicitor from the company came. Because I refused to speak to them until he came. Obviously, being legally trained myself, I refused to speak to them until he came, because they do have a way of twisting things and getting confessions out of people over there. Yeah, and that was at about 7 o'clock, and then about 1:30 in the morning, they just drove me to the prison and just threw me in the prison.
And how long did you spend there?
They told me, the company solicitor said, I'll have you out in the next 2 to 3 days, and I got out after 65.
Tell us what happened to Callum.
Callum decided that life had got too much with the cyberbullying. I can only assume that it was because the threats had been made to him and also to his dad and his brother. And he decided to enter the water and take his own life.
And he essentially walked into the sea December last year.
Yeah.
And it was actually an inquest heard that cyberbullying did have an impact on. So it's not you just speculating.
No, that came back through the coroner's inquest, that it was beyond unreasonable doubt that had a large impact.
Now, it's particularly relevant at the moment with changes in the law that have recently come in, and that's so that trolls can get, and just to clarify, that's people who do leave internet abuse, can get up to 2 years in prison. Can you tell me what you think of that?
I think it's good for anybody over 18 that maybe they realise stop, but it's no good for the under 18s, the people who seem to be the trolls at the moment. They seem to be sort of 14 to 18, and there's no law that exists to give them a punishment that fits the crime.
And that will still be the case. This won't apply to people under the age of 18. Now, the lad that did the cyberbullying, his name was
Ryan Jennings.
Ryan Jennings, and he was recently outed in a national newspaper. Do you know what happened to him? Do you know whether he was punished in any way?
He got an 8-month referral order, which meant he had to see a member of the youth offending team once a fortnight for anger management, and after the 8 months he gets to live his life as normal.
And how does that make you feel?
Angry and bitter and upset.
Because this is something that, you know, obviously has affected you deeply.
Massively, yeah. You know, I have night terrors, wake up in the night petrified. I've had panic attacks, anxiety, you know, I'm on different medications just to get through the day.
And this is through water, isn't it? You have water makes you very anxious now.
I've, you know, brought up water skiing, swimming, jet skiing. I've never had a fear of water, loved water. But a few months ago I was laid in the bath and realised I don't like water anymore. It makes me panic. You know, just washing my hair, if I lay in the water, it makes me panic. It's really changed my life.
And you Your entire family, this left a huge impact on
The
your
whole
entire
family, extended family, step-parents, step-children have all been affected. My mum and dad, they've held it together so well for us. I couldn't have asked for, you know, better parents. And my sister, they've been there for me through the toughest time I will ever have in my life. Nothing can compare to what's going on now.
And obviously it's been extremely difficult. He would have been
He was
18.
18 yesterday. Yeah, it was a sad day because his dad's family live up in Cumbria, so they had celebrations over there. We had celebrations down here, so it's an emotional time.
And can I just ask you, I mean, I know this might be a difficult question, but this lad who sent some pretty awful threats to your son, that is awful, but could he really have been expected to know what Callum might have done?
Nobody was expecting what Callum did to do, you know, for him to have done that. You hope that no child sitting behind the computer screen ever thinks, oh, I'm going to do this and hopefully he'll kill himself. You would hope that no human being would feel like that. But I think maybe if he looked back over what he'd sent, you know, maybe he would think, maybe I did push it a little bit too far, maybe the threats were, and especially because Callum never retaliated once. He never sent any messages of threat, violence or anything.
Next today, my guest is here to talk about a remnant from the Great War which is sadly rotting away in a far-flung corner of the globe. Dr. Rob Robinson from the Maritime Studies Centre at the University of Hull has written a book about the Viola, a hull trawler used during the Great War, now rusting in South Georgia. Hello Rob, thank you very much for coming in today.
Delighted.
Well, tell me a little bit about this ship, because I'm sure not many people have heard of it.
Well, when we think about the Great War, we tend to think about the trenches. If we think about the Great War at sea at all, then we tend to hear about dreadnoughts and Jutland. In fact, a flood tide of academic print and various popular books have been written about Jutland and dreadnoughts. But what we forget about is the war that took place just off our coast, day after day, week after week, month after month throughout the war. And that was a war that was largely fought by requisitioned trawlers from Hull, Grimsby and various other places, and fishermen. And their job was to keep the sea lanes open, to keep them free of U-boats and mines, etc. And these were trawlers that had been armed and sent off to war, basically. With
So normal guys, normal fishermen who did have normal ships, and then that changed.
Ordinary blokes working the normal work at sea suddenly plunged into extraordinary circumstances. And just one of these vessels survives. It's the steam trawler Viola. It was built back in Beverley in 1906. It used to work out of the Humber in what they call the North Sea boxing fleets. These were fleets of trawlers that supplied Billingsgate with London, with fish. And the Viola was one of these vessels. It sailed off, it was requisitioned. It sailed off to war in September 1914 with a crew from the Humber, was involved in many actions with U-boats, including the sinking of 2 of them, and has never returned from that voyage. So, but it's still around.
I mean, where is it now?
It lies at the island of South Georgia in the South Atlantic. South Georgia's hardly the centre of the universe. It's 3 days sailing from the Falkland Islands, and that's an 18-hour flight from Britain. So it's a long way away. And it lies at the ruined whaling station of Grytviken in South Georgia. It had a very long life that took it all the way down there. And I've tried to write about that in the book Viola, which tells you about the whole history of the ship from its time around here down to the time in the South Atlantic.
Now, more of those bloopers showing that even we don't get it right as presenters.
It looks like a rabbit. You've got to do it again because you failed.
I didn't fail. You just forced it on me.
It literally was like, so Mary, who is your star baker? He goes, oh, my star baker is Nancy. And then Nancy was like,
yeah, and just clip it into the top there, if that's all right.
Yeah, right. So would you like to go off first?
Yes, please. Oh my God.
Right, I'll get you clipped in and then we'll take you through.
Okay. But if trains aren't for you, there's plenty of sport to keep you busy this weekend. Here with me today, I've got Dan Kemp with a look ahead at what's happening. Dan, you look different today. Oh, I did mess up that. Right, we'll go again.
You called him Dank.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Oh no! Will! Come here, front! Will! Oi! Will, come on! See ya!
Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Ah, I'll do it like this. I'll do it with that one if that's all right.
Then there's plenty of sport to keep you busy this weekend. Here with me today, I've got Dan Kemp with a look ahead at what's happening. Dan, you look a bit different today.
Yeah, no, if I sort of suddenly piled on pounds and had my hair cut in like a week, then I would look a bit different.
Yeah, Dan's on holiday, so instead we've got Dave Nunn. This is James Dunn, Estuary TV News. I've not done that camera any favours. Oh. Oh.
Will! Come on! Oh, you weren't filming that?
Estuary.tv. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Oh.
Well, to be fair, I'm not actually the best shaver in the world, if I'm honest. I'm really not. What I really hate about that camera is sometimes I come in and like it's pointed more at me and it's zoomed directly in on my crotch.
Wait.
Because you've got the chance to inject me impetus. I was like, no.
I do!
But we've done horses before.
I do! And I will keep asking him.
But
No.
do you think the people watching
Just horse racing,
know that you're like
cross-country.
obsessed by horses, or do they think you're just some weirdo that's asking about horse
People
racing?
probably think I'm obsessed by horses.
On the phone, how the funding will make a difference. Oh my god! Oh, sorry. I'm really hot now as well. Am I okay? For like times, not just generally. I'm not asking. I'll do another one where I'm just like sitting like this.
Also racing this weekend, the races from Cleethorpes, Barnard-Beelerbeck, Louth, Brigg and Market Raisin. Unfortunately, that's all the sport we've got for you this time. Back to you, James. My bad.
Yep.
Well, that's all from us. See you in 2015. Thank you very much for watching and goodbye.